Hey everyone, not sure how many of you will be familiar with the character of Speed Demon, a Marvel speedster, much in the vein of Quicksilver, I suppose, although that's not strictly true, because they're very different characters. I mean, Speed Demon, who I discovered many years ago, by the way, decades ago, in fact, has a very cool costume. Cool looking character, right? Very cool. Great set of powers, interesting personality, interesting backstory. Quicksilver, who is the more powerful of the two, I mean, he would beat Speed Demon to a pulp, I'm sure. But by God, what a dull character, Quicksilver. Always found him to be so boring to look at, so boring to read his dialogue. I don't care about your personal problems. Your sister's a crackpot. Your dad's a evil mutant overlord. It sounds great, but God, so boring, so boring. Whereas with Speed Demon, and look, some of you might find that very interesting, and my apologies if I've offended anyone, but yeah, boring, absolutely boring. Whereas with Speed Demon, a chemist given his powers via a special formula by the Grandmaster, fantastically super cool 80s vibe costume, which I think is just, I mean, I would wear it if I was a comic book character. I would definitely wear this. Great set of powers, and what he does with his powers is very similar, in fact, to what the Flash does with his powers from DC, right? Flash, DC Flash. Very similar. On a much lower scale, the Flash would just destroy this character, of course. Flash is the fastest character, I think, in the history of comic books. But Speed Demon, and what a great name. What a great name, guys. Speed Demon. Now that is a name worthy of a comic book speedster. 100%. So yeah, I mean, this isn't really an in-depth study into Speed Demon's backstory per se. This is more about a study, an analysis, I suppose, of what happens when a really cool looking, cool superpowered supervillain goes up against a lesser powered but more popular superhero. Well, I think we all know what happens. The question is why? Why does it happen? Why must these amazingly cool characters end up losing all the time, falling into the dustbin of obscurity? I mean, it really is very annoying. These characters, I'm sure that the creator of these characters created these characters with a real love and fondness for what they were doing. But anyway, what is the secret formula that makes one character popular and the other one not? Who knows? Right, let's move on. So my analysis will center primarily on issue 222 of The Amazing Spider Man. Um, as you can see from the cover, this is an issue where Spider Man comes into contact with Speed Demon. And without me even having to say it, you know what's going to happen. Speed Demon loses the battle against Spider Man, despite the fact that he has a very impressive overpowering array of powers in comparison to Spider-Man, still loses. Um, and it's not so much the fact that he lost. I did not have any, I don't know, misconceptions when I sort of read this comic book. I wasn't under any sense of delusion as to the outcome. I knew what was going to happen before I picked it up, but a glimmer of hope remained that perhaps, just perhaps, this character, Speed Demon, will go down fighting with pride and dignity. His sense of worth intact. He will live to fight another day. Something along those lines. But I think you know where this is going. And as we delve through this issue, perhaps you too will be as disappointed as I was. I mean, perhaps you won't. Maybe some of you are diehard Spider-Man fans and you think I'm a complete lunatic, which is fine. You're entitled to your opinion, but really, as we go through this, perhaps you'll see my point of view. Now, before we get into the analysis proper, let us very quickly reacquaint ourselves with the power that these two characters possess. Spider Man can climb on walls, he can jump very high, depending on whether you're a fan of Tobey Maguire or not, he can shoot webbing either through his wrist, as in through himself, or he wears an apparatus which allows him to shoot webbing from these wrist thingies that he puts on. He has super strength, which is actually very significant. He is a significantly strong superhero, although it's downplayed because of his banter and the humorous nature of his general dialogue with supervillains. But he is, I mean, he can cause some serious damage. I think we shouldn't forget the fact that he is extremely strong. He had the proportionate speed and strength of a spider and all of that. He also has a sixth sense, a Spidey sense, which basically warns him of danger and allows him to operate on his terrain with a lot of dexterity. He can sometimes, sort of he just sees things coming, which is great. That's a very handy power, by the way. So he has all of this going for him. Speed Demon. What does Speed Demon have? Well, Speed Demon has lots of stuff. Let's get into it. He can move at supersonic. He can travel at supersonic speeds, bordering on hypersonic. I've read somewhere. In any event, he's faster than the speed of sound, and that's pretty quick. He has enhanced stamina. He has enhanced durability, which all makes sense because you need that as a speedster. He has hyper reflexes. Basically, when he's in his motion element, right? Everything around him is super slow. I mean, he's moving and the whole world around him just stops. That is amazing. He also has a very fast metabolism, which makes healing for him a lot quicker. I'm not saying that he has the same healing abilities as a Wolverine, for example, but he does heal quicker than the average person. He can generate cyclones by running around in circles, and these are powerful cyclones. They can lift objects and people and bash them around. Absolutely bloody amazing. Now, Spider-Man can crawl up walls. This guy can run up walls, but he can also run on water, which Spider-Man cannot do. But Speed Demon can run on water. Bloody amazing. And another very impressive power that Speed Demon has, which renders him nigh intangible, right? He can vibrate his molecules at super speed and then pass through solid objects. That is a phenomenal power to have. Basically, he could just put his hand into someone's chest by vibrating really quickly and then just I don't know, untangify himself, if that's even a word, and just rip someone's, heart out. I mean, that's great. It's not great. The point is, it's a very impressive and scary superpower. And that I think I already mentioned, he's a bit of a genius because he is a chemist, of course. He's not a Dumbo. So on the whole, a character with a lot going for him. Now, if you pit those two power sets side by side, it's clear as night, well, as clear as day. Actually, it's clear as day that Speed Demon should win, hands down. There should be no debate, really. There's no question. There's no logical question that could arise or any other outcome that could be perceived beyond the one which sees Speed Demon as the victor. But of course, I completely understand. I completely understand. This is a comic book. It's Spider-Man's comic book, and Spider-Man is a very popular character, one of the most popular characters of all time. And so clearly, in his own book, there is no chance at all that Speed Demon, or Speedy, as I like to sometimes call him, that he will actually win. Now, it is only right and proper to have the, I suppose, natural expectation that a superhero will prevail against the supervillain, especially in the superhero's own publication. That's fine. I don't have an issue with that per se. What I have an issue with is the way in which it's done. The way in which the character assassination almost of of this superpowered, overpowered character that if you were to pit the powers side by side would totally destroy Spider-Man. I mean, all you would have to do really is like have Spider-Man go into a slow motion aspect, right? Whilst Speed Demon is at super speed, the whole world around him is in slow motion. So while Spider-Man is in that slow motion phase, he can vibrate his hand into his chest and pull his heart out. I mean, it's pretty scary the application of Speed Demon's powers, if you really think about it, it's pretty frightening stuff. He can kill you before you even know what's happening, right? I mean, you will be dead before you hit the ground. That's insane power level, really is. And yet, as you can see from this panel here, he's treated like a he's treated like a nincompoop. This is precisely why many people might not have heard of Speed Demon, is because he's been relegated, it seems permanently, to a C-list status, never to rise. I mean, when you have this as introductions to a character, how can anyone take this character seriously? Now, here's the funny thing, and I suppose credit to the writer where credit is due. In the initial panels, you do see Speed Demon besting Spider-Man. He wins in the initial battle, and he wins easily, hands down. It's not difficult for him at all. And so there is this build up to Speed Demon being this really amazingly powerful character who uses his speed really effectively. And so it's all the more frustrating to see what happens at the end when he's so easily defeated by Spider-Man. This battle at the end takes place in a department store. Idea being that Speed Demon won't be as effective in enclosed spaces. But for goodness sake, enclosed spaces, we're not talking about a toilet cubicle, okay? We're talking about a department store which is quite wide, has wide aisles, lots of people go through there, in and out. It is not a phone box. I mean, it's not that enclosed, and yet this is the mindset. And of course, Speed Demon and this particular comic falls for it, and gets just battered. Well, what else can I possibly say? Well, I suppose I could say this: the way in which Speed Demon was dispatched by Spider-Man at the end was illogical, irrational, stupid, unreasonable, makes no sense whatsoever in the grand scheme of things. And here's something to think about. Why give a character such amazing powers, such an amazing costume, a really interesting backstory, only for them to be defeated by someone who is considerably less powerful than they are, and in such an undignified manner? I could understand what could have played out is that Spider-Man realizes that he can't take on Speed Demon by himself because Speed Demon is a demon. He's just too quick, and so he enlists the help of some other people, and they all get together, and they, somehow this is amazing, epic battle where the real powers of Speed Demon are at full display, and then finally he's taken down. That would be deserving of respect. That issue would be an epic issue, but they took this character and they just did this. They just did that. Fine, no problem. At the end of the day, when all is said and done, it is only a comic book. And I suppose in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really alter the universe or the problems that are in this world. But, I'm talking about comics books, and so I take this thing rather passionately. But yes, it could have been handled better. And look, I'm not saying that it couldn't have been handled better. I gave a scenario just now, but there are other instances where you have comic book characters going up against extremely powerful adversaries. One such example springs to mind. It was a early 90s comic, Detective Comics, Batman versus Etrigan the Demon, drawn by Norm Breyfogle. I can't remember the issue, but I remember in that particular issue, Etrigan was literally about to snap Batman's neck off his shoulders, and there was nothing that Batman could do about it. And the only reason that Etrigan let him go was because he was impressed by the sheer audacity, the tenacity of Batman to just not give in. He would go down fighting to his last breath. Now that gave a very dignified stance to both characters. Etrigan, who was no way going to be beaten by by Batman, forgive me. And Batman also, because he knew he was going down, but he just wouldn't go down without a fight. He would not give up. That is a logical representation of two characters who have a massive divide in terms of their power set. So well written, so well handled. I was impressed. I was impressed. This is what I mean by dignity. Dignity of characters in comic books. Anyhow, at the end of the day, some people will agree with me, some people won't, but everyone's entitled to their opinion. This is just something I thought, for those out there who maybe have heard of Speed Demon and or are fans of the character, I just want you to know I sympathize with you. I agree that he is a really amazing character. I wish that perhaps comic writers will give him more of a chance down the road. Maybe they won't. Maybe he'll disappear completely. But at least I've had my say, and it's been uh, it's been therapeutic. It's been good. So thank you very much for listening, everyone. I really appreciate it. And until the next time, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.